time is 6:03, and I call this meeting to order. Can you please join us in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, you may now take the roll.
Councilmember Murray is absent. Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Present.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Present.
Councilmember Matavetsky.
Present.
Councilmember Rathmel.
Present.
Councilmember Dundon is absent. Council President Pro Tem Middleton.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll now begin our discussion of legislation, and the Planning Committee with Chair Rathmel, and she will begin introducing RL 26-97.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem Middleton. This is RL 26-97, an ordinance to sell 2.5 Fayette Street and 4 Fayette Street to Habitat for Humanity for $1. Our presenter is the Executive Director of Broome County Habitat for Humanity. Yep, come on down. Welcome. You'll just want to make sure that when speaking, the green light is on, so you can, yep. Would you mind sharing the context of this ordinance?
Certainly. Thank you for having me. I did want to issue one quick clarification. It's 2 and 4.5 Fayette. I just want to make sure that that's on our application.
You said it's 2?
2 and 4.5.
2 and 4.5. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So yes, Broome County Habitat for Humanity is looking to acquire those 2 adjacent properties. We plan to construct 2 single-family homes on the lots. I would imagine, as you all know, Vines is in that area on the Susquehanna Street area, and we actually helped them construct their new zero-emissions building. And so we took a look at the neighborhood, and we thought, well, Vines is doing something really great in that neighborhood, and it's starting to, or they're trying to start to make it look a little bit better and revitalize it, and we'd like to pick up the torch and keep it going. So we're going to start with 2 and 4.5 and see how it goes.
Does Habitat only do single family?
Traditionally, yes. Right now, we are in the midst of constructing our first ever 2-family home, but that's located in Johnson City. That's on Spruce Street. It should be finished by the end of this year at the latest. But traditionally, we do build single-family homes. The 2-family was kind of a pet project of mine, and based on how the crew responds, we'll see if we do it again.
Are you familiar, so you mentioned Vines, are you familiar with the Reimagining Center City initiative that was launched by Council last month?
I'm not, no.
So you mentioned revitalizing that area, Center City in particular, with the changing of the name of Columbus Park to Center City Park. Council launched a neighborhood conversation around primarily centered on engaging with residents about how they're currently getting their needs met in that neighborhood, what they'd like to see coming into the neighborhood. We have had thus far 2 meetings with just about every organizational stakeholder in Center City. And actually on our next agenda next month, we will talk in detail about housing. So
Great.
I'd love to have you, if you're interested, join that conversation. At the moment, we're focused on direct kind of door-to-door, neighbor-to-neighbor resident engagement. But we have a really short timeline where we hope to identify kind of next steps for reinvestment.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, the thing is I did inquire with the local municipality regarding the current status of some of the other properties on Fayette Street, because ideally we'd like to start with these 2 and kind of keep it rolling. There are a few that I believe I was told were in process or in talks with BU for potential acquisition, and then the others are on the more blighted side. So I hope for in the future, you know, if the city takes possession or if whomever is the proper owner disposes them, that would be great. But from what we could see, you know, right now it's just 2 vacant lots that could use a nice home, and we hope to do that.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
My mic is on.
Yeah, so 2 Fayette looks like it was a fairly large structure there. Is there potential to split that lot or possibly get 3 lots out of 2 lots here? I mean, did we look at the actual sizing of the lots and the structures at all?
We have, and honestly, we are, even with the 2 lots, we're trying to make sure we can make that work from an excavation standpoint. I've actually had our excavators preliminarily go out and assess where we would move things because we are a nonprofit. So if we don't have a place for excavated dirt after we've backfilled it, we have to figure out a place where we can dispossess ourselves of it, and it becomes really costly. So his suggestion was that if we did acquire both 2 and 4.5, that we could put any excess from 2 to 4, and then when we go to break ground on 4, we will cross that bridge when we get there. But regarding making, you know, an additional lot in that spot, it's already quite tight.
So how did this process get kicked off? Were you, this is a Habitat-led initiative, or did somebody in the city approach you folks, or what, or just what
So-
put this on your radar, other than the Vines Association?
Oh, no, Vines had nothing to do with that other than I just happened to be down and see that there was open space. But no, the right way that we got connected was the governor's block by block grant is something that was kind of put out to all nonprofit housing organizations in the 5 cities that were awarded the finances, ours included. And so initially we had looked into going through that grant, but logistically speaking, the parameters of the grant are simply too onerous for us. We're quite small. And historically, we have not built in the city of Binghamton in, I believe, at least over a decade because of previous hiccups and hangups prior to my time. In fact, when I started 3 years ago, they gave me an open letter that they signed to the previous executive director stating that they refused to work, the volunteers I mean, in the city of Binghamton because it was simply too onerous. We are volunteer run, and they said that the city had made things excessively difficult and the red tape was more than they were willing to contend with. So we've not built in the city of Binghamton. And when initially approached about the block by block grant, I had remarked that it's in the city of Binghamton. So I started with Sarah Gloss and Tito Martinez down at the mayor's office explaining our position and saying, you know, I personally think that this is a win-win and that we could reopen the lines of communication between Habitat and the city of Binghamton, but I do want to start small. And so that was our initial opening. And then, like I said, the parameters of that specific grant became too onerous for us, but we do work with the Affordable Housing Corporation, and we could still acquire a grant through those means.
So is the project contingent on particular grant funding, or is this just another one in your pipeline, and what would be the timeline for starting?
So regarding the timeline, as soon as we can get the keys, so to speak, we do plan to excavate. Our goal is to do it this year. And then, of course, there's a race to get weather tight before the snow starts flying, but it's not a position we've not been in before, and we've handled it. And then, I'm sorry, what was your other question?
Well, contingent on that on a specific grant funding, or, I mean, you folks have projects going all the time, right?
Right.
So is this just, yeah.
Well, we do have projects going all the time, but I would not say simultaneously. We generally get at least 3/4 of the way done with a project before embarking on another. We are very much so one house at a time, with the exception of the 2-family we're building, which technically will be 2 houses. But it is not contingent on the grant funding, no, but ideally the grant funding would be great. It's just an excellent subsidy to help us. But the last house that we just closed on, unfortunately, the timing didn't work out and we didn't have the grant funding, so we simply put the money out of pocket.
So, but this would be the next one in the hopper, so to speak, if you're going to
Yes.
start this year.
Any other questions? Okay.
So you already have like a design for these buildings?
An architectural plan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And we do
Can you
observe
share it?
neighbor, I'm sorry?
Can you share it?
I could email it to you. I'm sorry, I don't have it with me right now, but we do try to comport with neighborhood aesthetic. We don't want to put, a bungalow in an area of skyscrapers, so we discussed it, and based on the size of the plot and the current existing drawings we have, if any of you are familiar with 7 Burlington in Binghamton, we built that house, and it's a ranch style, but it's turned. So rather than being spread out, I guess horizontally, it's turned vertically. So, and then it has a full basement, and that's the style that we plan to build.
Any other questions?
I think, sorry?
No, go ahead.
My position and approach to vacant lots throughout the city and through other conversations that we have is that I'm pretty sure this is an R3 district. I know there was a two-family, I think, and another two-family, I believe. So that's probably like at least 6 units that were on those lots, and then we're gonna reduce it down to just 2 families. So it, in terms of replenishing inventory, it's not like maximizing density in the allowable zoning. And since the city is mostly R1 and is suited for single family, it's like single family should be built where single family can be built, and the multifamily residential should be built in the areas where it's allowable to kind of maximize density and most units that we can have. I guess that's just a comment. That's kind of the same thing I've shared about different presentations for single family, but.
I mean, I understand and respect that position. That's why I wanted to do the 2-family to begin with at Spruce Street. Part of the issue, I will be very, transparent, is our builds are done by volunteers, so I cannot force them. I can discuss it with them, and I take what they say to heart, and ultimately we do come to a decision as a team. But I know that just getting them to sign on board to even consider building in the city of Binghamton and then consider building where we're building, it was an uphill battle for me toward my build crew, for me toward my board. They have a lot of concerns about finding homeowners who will qualify, who will want to live in that neighborhood. I kind of took the platform of we need to build the change we wish to see, and it could either be blighted buildings and slumlords, or we can create something beautiful out of what's nothing currently. So, I'm not going to rule out and say never again will we build, a 2-family or multifamily or in the city of Binghamton, but I do want to let you know that that's something I would like to do. It's just getting the rest of the organization on board is easier said than done.
I would like to, so I share that exact sentiment, and I would say stakeholders that have been engaged in community conversations would have the same concern about dropping single families where additional units would be permitted and are possible. Would you be willing to commit to having that conversation with your volunteers about the potential of 2 families in those lots?
I would certainly be open to discussing that. I will say regarding those 2 lots, that would be something we'd have to definitively go back to the drawing board, because I'm thinking of the current 2-family build and the space that we have in which we've been able to work. And I know we could theoretically build a 2-family on those 2 lots, but to get two families on those 2 lots is, again, pushing it based on the drawings that we currently use. And I also would like to put on the record that if somehow the discussion was had and they did come on board, which would again be, both the volunteers and my actual board that I report to, I would want to say, we had a lot of trouble. I mean, I didn't experience it personally, but just from what I was told, a number of volunteers actually left the organization due to the restrictions of working within the city of Binghamton. So I wouldn't want it to be, here is the olive branch, and we're gonna start off with a single family, and then we transition to a multifamily, and we get slapped with a bunch of additional red tape and a lot of rigmarole and headache, because it's already volunteers, and then if you make them do additional onerous tasks, they pull out completely.
And I can understand that your interest would be your organization and the organization that you are entrusted to lead. Our interest is going to be the right fit for that neighborhood.
Anyone else? Well, thank you, Letitia, for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you so much. Have a good
Thanks.
evening.
You too.
And if you can, just send that over. Do you need an email address to send that information over that we requested? Okay, my clerk will. Okay, she'll get you a card. Okay. Finance Committee Chair Councilmember Kavanaugh will now introduce RL 26-98.
Do we have Doug Jensen from, all right. And CR, do you want to come down too?
Why not?
I'm going to take a wild guess that this is a RL 2698. I'm going to take this as a wild guess that this is a consequence of our pushing for a sewer credit program and study.
That's exactly what it is for. It is for completing the flow management study that was requested jointly by the owners, and funded only at $100,000 in the budget. Our bids have come in extremely higher than that. So we are seeking to move $250,000 from our reserve accounts into our operating budget to cover this.
Can we get copies of the RFP and the responses?
Yes, we can get you copies of the RFP.
Thank you. CR, I asked you down, I guess, to comment on the health of the sewer fund, and can we handle this expense? And
Well, yes,
in
they
your
have
fiscal opinion.
Well, they're using their reserve fund, so they have almost $2 million in there. So I think using the $250,000, they've hardly used it since we put it in place in the end of 2022.
Okay.
So I think this is prudent.
And do we have a timeline on starting getting the study done and report back? Or
They would start the study very shortly after the owners approve the transfer. Of course, we can't commit to that until that's done. And I think the target deliverables right now is November. So the study would commence during the rainy season,
Okay.
looking forward in the spring and summer.
okay.
Would you mind over here? I know the audio is a little difficult. Would you mind refreshing my memory of the objective for the study?
Sure, the study will analyze the actual flows in the sewer systems to determine where the flows to the plant are coming from.
Okay. And then based on that, is it a billing question for different municipalities that use the?
We have obviously we have a capacity amount. Right now, we have the flow credit program, which allocates certain gallons to certain basins throughout the service area. So it would analyze whether the allocations we are using are accurate or need to be changed.
Thank you.
And this looks like this is up for an expedition. Can you explain the reason why? I think you said it already, but can you explain the reason why this needs to be expedited?
We're behind on schedule right now. Our first bid came in that our board accepted, came in with one contingency to do with the GIS mapping, which would have pushed this amount well over the $350,000 mark. So that just meant we had to go to the second bidder. And
So
extend the situation.
did Johnson City already approve this?
Yeah, it is on Johnson City's agenda for tomorrow night.
All right.
Okay.
And then obviously, if it's gotten to us, the board feels that this is still worth
Yes.
the
they
money
do.
to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I will motion to expedite as long as we get the information I requested.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Clerk, any discussion regarding that expedition? Clerk, can you please take the roll?
Councilmember Rathmel?
Aye.
Councilmember Matavetsky?
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss?
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Councilmembers Murray and Dunn are absent. Council President Pro Tem Middleton?
Aye.
Thank you. That is 5-0.
And I'll just, since we didn't say it out loud, the expedition is requested to accommodate conducting the study
We did.
during the area's late spring and summer heavy rain
We did.
season.
Oh, I thought we did. Okay,
Thanks, Doug.
thank you. Okay. Municipal and Public Affairs Committee Member Matavetsky, will you now introduce RL 26-99?
All right. So we're going to be talking about RL 26-99, a resolution authorizing $90,248 from District Attorney for Discovery position. And we have our Chief of Police, John Ryan.
Good evening. This resolution is to accept $90,248 from the Broome County District Attorney's Office to help support and fund a position, a discovery technician position, which is a non-sworn member of the police department that serves in the role of discovery technician. This is money that's from the state through the District Attorney's Office to help with state mandated discovery processes, and it also is available for some training and or special important cases that have excessive amounts of discovery or video recovery for discovery purposes.
I believe we previously accepted similar money, so this is an existing position with an existing person, correct?
Yes, it's an existing position that's currently staffed, and they're working in that role now, and we have accepted money prior.
Yeah. This, and including by this body? I think-
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like pretty sure we voted on this
Mhm.
before.
Is it an annual renewal that we should be expecting? Because it was just last year, right? Okay.
Right, I don't think that it's, I guess, funding dependent from the state through the DA, so I guess you could say annual, but I don't know that there's anything guaranteed by legislation that the money would be guaranteed from year to year.
Okay. And I think, I'm sure we asked this question previously, but what is the plan if the grant funding is no longer there? Would the position simply be sustained with existing budget?
Well, we were required to do it by law, so the work would have to be done from year to year. Like when this went into effect with the bail reform, the monies were sent from the state. There's no indication that it would be pulled necessarily, but I guess there's no definitive plan if it was to be pulled. The work would still have to be done. Basically, you'd be paying a police officer to do it at a much higher rate if that were the case.
So
Any
ha-
more- yeah.
Has this position been meeting the discovery needs of the department? Is it enough? I mean, I know it was a major concern of the department when all this got kind of kicked into place, that it was a significant new burden on compliance, so.
Yeah, I think there's been some initiatives to try to streamline some of the processes and use other technologies that will help make it more efficient and probably more cost-effective, not just for our agency, but across the board throughout the county, as the district attorney's office is a central receiver of all that information. So I think they've put a lot of focus as well. We've been able to get by thus far. There are other persons that can provide a support role for if there's burdensome cases or, you know, an excessive volume or considering for leave time and so forth. We've been able to sustain thus far.
So what type of technology, or do you have any more details on what those streamlining initiatives look like?
A lot of it has to do with video. So there's video everywhere, and it's all discoverable case evidence on an arrest. How that video is compiled and then transferred. So if it's something where like a detective has to go to a location and physically download video from, be it a digital source or some type of player, transfer that data into something so it's protected. We have software programs that allow the data to be downloaded or still photographs to certify their legitimacy, so they're not tampered or altered. So collection of that data using like centralized software programs that can be input and then transferred to the district attorney and used as case evidence there, or opposed to, there's certain case law and evidence rules that come into play, as well as how you're duplicating that and transferring that. So there's been a lot of discussion and review and a push for utilizing those. It's all part of currently available through that Axon platform, which is originally it was a TASER company, and then the money to be made there is in data management, and that's like what our body camera program utilizes. That's the platform in which we operate off of. So they're expanding into other areas of really what I guess would be considered data management.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, we will move right on again to RL 26-100 and the Employees Committee. Hadassah, can you? No.
Still
Oh.
an MPA.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, I'm ready to go home, I guess. Sorry.
So
Sorry.
RL
Thank you.
26-100, a resolution authorizing $178,840 Strive grant for domestic violence response.
Yes. Thank you
This
so
is
much.
Another one that I believe we've
Done
accepted
it before.
previously.
Mhm.
Correct.
I had a question about that. So this is the second year, I think we're receiving that grant, correct?
Yeah, they call it Strive 2, so it's the second award.
Have you seen any thing beneficial with this grant, like with this?
I think so. So Strive 1 was like the implementation to lay the groundwork. We did 7 weeks of in-service training where all of the police officers from the department received this Strive training. The focus is on intimate partner violence and reducing lethality amongst domestic violence cases and reducing domestic violence victims. So the program, to say, we rolled it out at the mid-March timetable. So we're working through that, but I believe in the program. I think it's going to help make it safer for, domestic violence situations and hopefully reduce lethality. Time will tell as far as what statistics show. But I think it gives a victim-centered approach where you're creating options and the ability for victims to receive services and get out of those situations, or if they're remaining in those relationships, offender accountability and counseling. It's kind of like a holistic approach to domestic violence. So our portion is specific to, the law enforcement aspect. There's other criminal justice or social service or provider agencies that partake, but I think it's a step in the right direction for the safety of those persons and families and children.
So how many officers get trained, or is it management? Is it the direct service officers? Is it?
Every officer in the
Every
department.
officer.
The officers that operationally are handling those calls, obviously are performing those tasks or implementing the resources, on a more direct basis, but all officers receive the training so they have an understanding of the program and the direction we're going with it.
And then a chunk of this goes to pay for an analyst, correct?
Correct. This grant covers training, but the crux of it is salary and fringe for an analyst, which is also a non-sworn position, so a non-police officer that's a certified crime analyst that handles data management and analysis of the domestic violence information, the reports. They're our employee, but they are the grant analyst or the Strive analyst for the entire grant. So they're also working with or alongside other agencies to compile that as, these persons move from within jurisdiction to jurisdiction, or it's not agency specific. So the current analyst, there's only one analyst for the program. That analyst is our employee, and she works daily out of the Crime Analysis Center, but in conjunction with the district attorney's office and then our detectives on follow-ups and so forth on domestic violence.
What is the plan, if I recall correctly, repeatedly references incidents that occur without law enforcement involvement, and there was a component of a perceived need to, quote, foster community and understanding between residents and law enforcement, a justification for law enforcement partnerships on sites like emergency shelters, despite organizations currently working effectively with DV victims that haven't asked for BPD involvement. How has that component of the Strive plan been going?
I'm not sure I know exactly what you're asking as far as working with placing domestic violence victims elsewhere or in shelters, or just in general?
No, I mean, in the plan, there were references to concerns regarding incidents that occur without law enforcement involvement. So presumably the number of partners who experience violence who opt not to involve or engage with law enforcement for any number of reasons, and claims that there should be more victim-seeking services and support involved with law enforcement agencies, and there was a justification for attempting to enhance law enforcement partnerships on sites that they're currently working effectively with DV victims, but there was going to be some kind of outreach from the department to foster community and understanding. I'm curious how that component of the Strive grant and the implementation of the plan since last year has gone.
Sure. So if it's like the questions posed of a distrust of police or not wanting to involve the police, but getting assistance through a provider, trying to bridge that gap, so if they are a victim, that the criminal justice process is initiated on their behalf, so to build trust with the police. Some of that is done with these, there's a part of the program is called the DVHRT, Domestic Violence. It's comprised of detectives and other professionals that will do specific follow-up. So they receive specialized training to make one-on-one contact follow-up action with these victims to try to build that rapport, build that trust, so that they can, sometimes effectuate an arrest and have the offender held accountable, or help maybe remove that person from their living situation, on their terms. So it's victim focused and victim centered by design. So I guess our role would be to help, foster those relationships, but bringing in the police component as far as if law enforcement is necessary to initiate criminal charges or assist the victim in that regard. Or it may be like we said, assist them in establishing a plan of exit for the relationship or the living situation they're in. So there's other resources that we can refer them to, be it like shelter or victim advocate or crime victims assistance. So I mean, I don't have statistics as far as, beforehand or after, as far as like what the plan looks like or how the funding is going. I think they kind of measure it, that DVHRT team, like on a case-by-case basis, like we had a successful outcome, or this is somebody that has been abused for years, but now there's assistance for them, or they're seeking assistance through the team's efforts.
And so you mentioned maintaining a victim-centered approach. I think what I'm hoping to ascertain is just to confirm that if there are providers involved, let's say, for example, the only emergency shelter that serves women, so YWCI, if there are partners involved or that fostering of a relationship is happening, I think I want to confirm that the consent and agency of the victim remains the priority. So it would never be a one-sided, like there's never any outreach to law enforcement without the victim's initiation or consent.
So like if we had a referral, I guess is maybe how you're phrasing it, like if a service provider agency is referring something to us or requesting that we do a follow-up, like without the consent of a victim?
I think I'm hoping that that's not part of that process, that there's not a workflow that disregards the consent of the victim in engaging.
No,
Okay.
no, the victim's participation and willingness or desire to have assistance, that's their right. So we're not intruding on that, or nor are we seeking it out. We're making ourselves available with extra resources, should they so choose. I mean, like to talk hypothetical situations, but a domestic violence type situation that officers may respond on, the purpose is ultimately to say there are these resources, this victim has options, and we're here to provide assistance to them. We're not going to really solve their issue. The police role is the criminal justice side, or facilitating access to these things, be it like immediate removal to a shelter or follow up at a later time. They're in fear to provide truthful account of what took place, making options available for the victim to connect with police in a safe manner so that they can advance their situation, legally with the police if that's what they need or they want. We don't receive like tips or referrals and then seek something out when the victim's not willing. There may be aspects of crime victims assistance that provide counselors and things that may assist people and provide their options or make it something more available than they thought it might be an option. I don't know how they operate wholly. That's their part, not the law enforcement aspect.
And I think this is my last question. I didn't see it in my notes, so I may be thinking of a different program. Was this the program that was also going to supply cell phones to victims? How is that piece of it going?
That's basically there's a portion that's, they call it the LAP, or Lethality Assessment Program. So part of the grant pays for the funding of cell phones that are put in the patrol cars. They're not for the officers, they're for the use of the victim on a call. So they have a manned line 24/7 where an operator would take a call on this lethality assessment call, and they call it the LAP line, where they would then connect with like the provider that you're talking about. So we're there to facilitate this person making direct contact that particular night at a call or a domestic violence incident, so they can at least establish an immediate safety plan. Might be at the moment, or it might be, for the morning, or like, okay, next week, these are the resources available to me. I'll contact you. there's cards that we give out, like with QR codes for the victims and resources and pamphlets, but the purpose of the cell phone program is that night making direct contact. So if somebody needs to change their living situation at the moment, we put that in motion, 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever that looks like, then we have the ability, they connect with someone besides the police that are there for services. Or they may not want to deal with us necessarily, so we can put them in touch with a human being at that time to get things in motion.
Thank you, and I'm sorry, I lied. I have one more question. Just confirming, does this 178,000, the amount being requested, continue to support there were 2 positions added to crime victims and overtime dollars made available to RISE? Is that sustained?
So this portion is what's to the Binghamton Police Department. So there's multiple agencies and entities involved, probation, crime victims. There's an executive board of the STRIVE program, like locally within the county, and then they had a budget there. So I can't speak exactly to those figures without having them in front of me.
No, that's
But this
okay.
is
I
our
see that
portion.
now.
This is our portion,
Thank you.
the city police, or I should say the city of Binghamton's portion.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Okay, do we have one more? No, we don't. Okay, now, Employees Committee Member Matavetsky, can you now introduce RL 26-101?
All right. So we have RL 26-101, an ordinance to amend the 2026 Mayor's Office budget to increase salary for assistant to the mayor. And welcome, Mayor.
Hi there. I sent council an email alongside this RL. As discussed, the city's deputy mayor, Megan Hyman, will be transitioning out of her role here shortly. And so twofold, in an effort to kind of restructure the department and assist us getting done what we need done, and also acknowledging the additional roles that the assistant to the mayor for neighborhood and youth affairs has been undertaking and will continue to undertake as it relates to several multi-departmental collaborative projects specifically dealing with public safety and code, as well as the ongoing work of the neighborhood groups and responding to constituent concerns. This salary increase reflects those additional duties. It also is within the total budget for the department, as Megan's replacement, when hired, would come in at that same level, so providing a little bit more parity in the department, and just kind of trying to modernize the mayor's office and respond to the needs of running the city on a day-to-day basis. And again, doing so without going over budget or needing any transfers in just the salary increase.
So I had a question. When do you think you'll have a replacement for Megan?
Assuming council votes on this, at the next meeting in May, I would say some point in the month of June.
And then what happens to what's her name? The assistant?
Madeline.
Yeah, Madeline. I knew
Yep.
it. I just had it in my head. Yeah. What happens to her?
She stays put. It's just the increased salary.
Okay.
So again, for the additional duties and the fact that, more, I think, of the work of the office will be shared by her and the deputy position. So it's kind of, again, the total amount of salary is not changing, but just kind of where it's being allocated given the workload, the fact that she's been with the office for a number of years.
Okay.
Can we learn a little bit more about the code and public safety initiatives? I think we all know about the neighborhood meetings because she's at our neighborhood meetings.
Sure. Lockdown and problem properties. That's a big part. Coordinating multi-departmental initiatives as neighbors complain about a property. It may be a public safety issue, which we can address through the police department, community response team. She is our office's liaison with that entity to deal with hotspot neighborhood policing, but also too working creatively with Corporation Counsel, and Bob can probably share the number of emails and meetings he has with Madeline on how we kind of attack specific problem properties, and what works for one does not necessarily work for others. And so we may need to look at lockdown with some of which are code cases that eventually, make their way to Supreme Court. So, 11 Stone, which was detailed here recently, Office of Corporation Counsel and Elizabeth, who's prosecuting that case, is doing the lion's share of that. But how that goes from, citizen complaint to marshaling the resources of City Hall to eventually prosecuting that owner, Madeline has a lot to do with that. And so, she's basically taken over from me in terms of, the day-to-day, week-by-week management of problem properties in the city. That's one example. Again, other code-related or public safety-related issues. We had advanced the recreational vehicle change in the way that we're kind of doing things, so the rollout of that. Again, working a lot with Corporation Counsel on just those neighborhood quality of life issues and how we stay on the cutting edge.
So there's not going to be any change other than salary to the deputy. Why can't I think of it? No, I understand that, but then the deputy mayor, that's going to be a salary decrease also.
Yeah, so that will be with parity of the
Okay.
assistant to the mayor position.
Gotcha. And then there's no structural change in those responsibilities?
No.
No, okay.
Nope.
Thank you.
It's your office and your budget. I think you get to structure it how you like, pretty much.
Within reason.
Within reason.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Well, thank you.
Thank
Mayor
you very
Quinn.
much.
Have a good day. Have a good evening.
The sound system sounds great, by the way.
I know. We're on.
In fact, round of applause for Bob from IT.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think.
that's Bob. That's all Bob.
Hey. The microphone is on. It's time to sing a song. All right. Public Works Committee member Hotchkiss will now introduce RL 26-03. We will be skipping over RL 26-102 as it was submitted as a duplicate previously discussed in RL 26-96 due to an administrative error.
Okay, we're looking at RL 26-103, an ordinance to modify the 2026 capital fund to install gutters on Ross Park Carousel. How much detail can you give us, Ron?
I think this is very important that we do that. For whatever reason, the consultants did not put gutters on the new carousel building. And if you've seen it, you know that it's completely surrounded by doors. And my fear is if we allow it to come down that steep roof and splash off the sidewalk, that the bottom of those doors won't last only a couple of years. So I think it's important that we get the gutters up and save those doors.
Sounds very reasonable to me.
It seems like a crazy oversight to have happened.
Yeah.
From the
Can't
designers
imagine,
and consultants and whatever.
can't imagine why they didn't do it, but they didn't.
And they're still getting their 15% on top of the bid, right?
Of course.
Ron, looking at the budget transfer sheet, do we know what parks equipment is not being?
I had a talk with the parks director about that, but I was
Okay.
concerned that we were.
Can I ask the question?
Yeah,
just
sorry,
So
go
that, just so that folks listening know what I'm
Yeah.
asking. So 13 grand in parks equipment, question is just what's not being purchased if that's being transferred?
It's a parks capital line. There was no specific item that they were looking to purchase this year. It's there in anticipation of something expensive like a mower breaking or something. But Shane did not have any particular use in mind for it. So having said that, I asked that if a need arises, that 13,000 in particular, would have been used for, to please come to us and let us know. When, don't just let it sit and assume we can't figure something out down the road. So, sorry for stepping on your question.
That's okay.
So is there anything that we can do regarding our displeasure for the gutters not being included initially? Is there something that we should be checking internally? Is there something we should be doing in terms of working with this company? What happens when there's this kind of whoopsie?
Hopefully, from now on, Parks will come to us, which they've started doing is when they go out for bids, so we can look over the drawings and things. I think that's our catch-all. We were not consulted on that, and it started even upstairs in planning. They really didn't know how to put together a contract. So there's been many things on that project that engineering has corrected already. But I do now have Parks, and they're working with us so we can help them.
So is there like a documented process flow now, or something that if you were to at some point someday retire, that there would be something, or there's a new administration or whatever there is that people could point to and say, this is how we do this type of project next time?
It's not documented, but it's our standard procedure, so the guys in the office know what to look for. And
Will there be any sort of post-mortem on the project, some sort of documentation that will exist that future parties can review,
I think
lessons learned?
I've probably said enough to individuals for a postmortem. But
I'm still a fan of documentation. Because
we can do some
institutional knowledge can disappear rapidly when it's not
we can do some
searchable.
documentation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Is this going to be the last RL for this carousel?
Oh, don't hold them to that.
I hope so, but I doubt it.
Okay.
It's not your fault, Ron.
All right, so it is marked for expedition. So I guess
Yes.
I'll make the
Hadassah,
motion
I
to
can-
expedite.
Oh, okay. So,
I'll motion to expedite.
a
I'll
motion-
second then.
Oh, any
Which other
discussion?
Obviously, as the 5th District representative, we would like a functioning carousel for Memorial Day opening weekend. We have a huge amount of sunk cost into this project at this point, to not walk away with a functioning carousel for Memorial Day weekend.
I don't know when it'll be open. When they took the center pole and stuff down for the old carousel, they found some parts that were broken, and we're trying to find replacements or a foundry that can cast them.
So I guess I should ask then, is this is this maybe not even the bottleneck to opening? So we're expecting, so I guess in terms of whether or not this actually needs to be expedited, if it's not the bottleneck.
Well, the only reason to expedite is to keep the weather off from those doors.
Okay, thank you.
Clerk,
And-
can you please take the roll if anybody else doesn't have anything else? Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that by expediting it, we can get that contract over and done with quicker.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Take the roll.
Councilmember Rathmel?
Aye.
Councilmember Matavetsky?
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss?
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Councilmembers Murray and Dundon are absent. Council President Pro Tem Middleton?
Aye.
Thank you. That is 5-0.
Thank you so much. And we're still in Public Works and Parks. Committee Member Hotchkiss, can you introduce RL 26-104?
I'm sorry, did I completely miss RL 26-102?
skipped
I don't
Yes.
think we skipped it.
We skipped it.
It was a duplicate submission from
duplicate.
2 weeks ago.
I apologize. Okay,
Yeah,
I missed
okay.
that.
You didn't
Thank
hear
you. No.
Yeah, okay, yes.
We didn't need to hire them twice.
Okay, so we're now looking at RL 26-104, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Barton and Legaitis for preliminary engineering reports.
This is exactly like the same one we did at 2 weeks ago, where we're trying to keep on the intended use plan, and we have to update the preliminary engineering report. So it's identical to the one you did last time, except it's a different project.
So this is a report that looks like it dates back to maybe 2022, that's been in the pipeline that long.
It's been in the pipeline that long, but we have done some small work on that project in the interim. We just haven't been ready to go for the gigantic one.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Well, I see this is marked for expedition. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
A motion, do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion regarding this expedition?
There's nothing marked on the paperwork for justification, so I'm gonna
The-
request that,
It
again,
has to-
request that when something is requested for expedition, that it be typed on this piece of paper.
Okay. It has to be done by the 30th.
Okay.
Sounds like a good reason.
I did appreciate the previous explanation about needing to stay on that rotating list. That was helpful for understanding why we continue to see some of these contracts cycle through. So thank you.
Yes. And sometimes we're trying to submit new data and increase our score so we get more funding. That's why it stays on there for a few years.
Clerk, can you please take the roll?
Councilmember Rathmel,
Aye.
Councilmember Matavetsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss,
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Councilmembers
Aye.
Murray and Dundon are absent. Councilmember,
sorry.
Council President Pro Tem Middleton said aye. Thank you. That is 5-0.
Thank you so much. Ron, I hope you have a good evening.
Good night, Mr. Lake.
Now we'll go back to the Finance Committee Chair. Kavanaugh, can you please introduce RL 26-105?
Okay, RL 26-105, yeah. Yes, it's a resolution authorizing agreement with the BLDC for $120,000 special project loan to KC Kane LLC, and we have Sarah Close. I have spoken to each council member individually about the possibility of going into executive session for details, if folks feel the need to, and Corporation Council I know is pretty well briefed on this whole thing, but would you like to give a public overview and see where we go from there?
Yeah, so as Councilmember mentioned, this is a loan from the Local Development Corporation. One of the requirements of our loan programs above a certain amount is to take these to City Council for approval. So at our last BLDC meeting, which was on April 23rd, we approved this through the Local Development Corporation at the recommendation of the Loan Committee. So it is a $120,000 loan to KC Kane LLC. The top line of this is a loan that will allow us to assist her in moving her monthly debt service from around $8,000 to, I think, close to $3,000. So that's the primary purpose of this, is to get her out of some predatory debt that she has entered into and enable her to continue operating her business. Katie Kane is the proprietor of the Simply Space on the south side, which is consisting of Simply Apparel and Simply Tan in the number 5 Commons. So happy to answer any questions, but I'll keep it high level to start.
I think I don't really have any questions because I spoke to Robert earlier, so he kind of really explained like the reasoning behind it and why this is coming forth now in the expedition. So that's just for me. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions, but I don't.
I guess I think this might be the first thing we voted on from BLDC, am I correct?
Mhm.
My
Yes.
Brain, okay. So could you just talk me through the process of what comes to council versus what doesn't come to council? Like just, just the big context.
I would have to double check what the exact amounts are, but it's just particular loans over a certain amount. And it's just an internal policy. It's not anything that's codified in our bylaws. I don't believe. I actually went looking before this meeting to see if there was anything. But it's just a feature of our loan programs. I can get you the exact amount. I just don't have it off the top of my head.
So that means there, in the last 2 years, there haven't been any loans of this magnitude.
Yeah, not that we're subject to city council approval. This is the first one.
So do we know about I think this represents about like half, a little bit less than half of the total business debt. Do we know if that's better financing?
Yeah, so the debt service I talked about is inclusive of her other loans as well. Some of the debt that she has incurred is not bad debt, it's not predatory high interest debt, and those are debts that she will continue to pay off with the creditors that she has. This is really just a consolidation of the high interest predatory, and we're talking up to 19% interest on some of the loans she has. So that debt service is inclusive of the amount that she's paying us as well as the amount that she is paying to her other creditors.
I guess this is kind of, can you talk more about the fund? This is just a BLDC fund? Or is
Yeah.
there's different funds in BLDC, and this is specifically, I don't know.
Yeah,
Can you
no,
share more about it?
good question. So this is Urban UDAG, it's called, and I should know off the top of my head, but I don't. It is the,
Is it Urban Development Assistance Grant?
that sounds right, thank you. Corp Counsel. Yeah, so we have a couple different funds through the Local Development Corporation. We have what we call our restricted loan funds. Those are CDBG funded, and they are tied to job creation and meeting the national objectives. So for every $35,000 that is loaned out of that particular account, one job has to be either created or retained for either a low to moderate income person or a business that serves low to moderate income individuals. This is it's less restrictive, yes. We also have unrestricted, which is a different pot of money. But this is not our most strict loan fund. This is somewhere between our totally unrestricted money, where the board has a lot of latitude to spend money on public sector improvements or make loans, but not as restrictive as our strict CDBG loan funds that are tied to job creation. So it's called the Special Projects Fund because it has flexibility kind of above and beyond what a lot of our other loan funds have.
Thank you.
There geographic restrictions on it? Is it certain business development areas that people qualify? If someone's watching this and they're like, hey, I have a lot of predatory loans and I'm got a business in East Side or
Yeah.
North Side or
I'll take the question in two parts. On the geographic location, we serve the entire city of Binghamton. For better or for worse, most of the city of Binghamton falls under an area that's eligible for CDBG funding. So I wouldn't say that we have particular areas that we do or do not invest in, but I think more importantly for anyone watching, what I would want them to say is, pardon me, that if you are in sort of any need with your business, with starting a business, with the business you own, really anything, that you can reach out to our office. We started working with Katie around 3 years ago and have been working diligently with her. One of the things that really got us to this point was she went to every other financing source that is available, every bank, every community development finance institution, every grant she applied for, everything she could possibly do to do this without working through the Local Development Corporation, she did. And she worked really closely with the Local Development Corporation, Rachel Priest, our financial analyst, as well as Susan Farrell, who serves as vice president of the board, to really run down everything that was out there. Unfortunately, there really just are not programs for this type of assistance. Most of the debt consolidation programs you see also have predatory interest rates on them. So you don't really get yourself in a better situation by consolidating debt with one of those firms. Traditional financing won't touch debt consolidation. It's just a product that is not really available on the market, even from institutions that are subsidized through other public means.
Thank you.
One of the points that was brought up during the BLDC deliberations over this is that there, I think, has been traditionally a focus on creating new things. But this is a recently created thing that needs a little help to sustain and hopefully grow. And so I think it's being recognized that it's important to put some effort and focus into sustaining the businesses and the folks that have taken that leap and started a business and just need a helping hand to make it sustain and thrive.
And just to put a finer point on that, one of the things I mentioned to Robert in our deliberations was that I sit on a monthly call with downtown business improvement district managers and other officials from cities across New York State, and pretty consistently we spend 20 minutes of every call just talking about retail attraction. Nobody is doing it. Nobody can figure it out. Unless you already have a very, very strong base of wealth in your community, you're just not attracting retail right now. And even in communities that I think we would consider much more affluent than ours, they are still experiencing high levels of vacancy. It's just a very difficult time to start a business, and specifically retail is still trying to find its place post-COVID. And so to Robert's point, we really see this as an opportunity to keep something in a space that otherwise, based on my conversations with other business owners in our area, as well as looking statewide, I don't see a huge opportunity for us to be getting people into new spaces. As much as we would like to do that, we will continue to work to try to make that happen. And the LDC's resources are available to assist people in doing that. And our business plan competition is coming up, which we are always optimistic will lead to some brick and mortar investment at the end of the day. It's just a really tricky time for that. And so trying to preserve what we have in our retail stock is increasingly important in my office.
So, like worst case scenario, Katie can't pay this debt and something terrible happens with her business. Does the BLDC then become the owner of like all that equipment and inventory type of situation?
We do have some collateral, although I think we're in a second position. It is personally guaranteed, so, and I think, Robert, I might toss this over to you to explain how the recapture works.
Yeah.
Oh, either Robert, sorry.
Oh, right. No, all right, sorry.
I mean, yeah.
Let the lawyer take.
I want to be a little bit careful with this because there's a legal piece to it in terms of how everything works. But basically, if this loan isn't repaid for one reason or another, then yes, there'd be a trigger where the city would basically act on the loan and try and, well, the BLDC would act on the loan and try and make a recovery against the loan with whatever secured assets it can get access to.
Thanks.
I appreciate the shop being there. I drive past it every day, and I like how they rotate their inventory in the window. It's quite visually appealing. And when I walk by there, I appreciate it as well. So I know we're talking about money stuff, just to bring back some personalization, that I appreciate the business being there. And they do a nice street view job.
And while I have you all here, I know that there are 3 different Mother's Day events happening on May 9th. One is at Simply Apparel, one is at Mama Bear Brand downtown, and one is at Goldenrod Studios downtown. I'm sure there are others as well. So there's lots of opportunities to go out and support local businesses for Mother's Day this upcoming weekend.
Are there any limitations to, and maybe this is also relevant to marketing and engagement, but are there any limitations to, so just looking back through annual reports, it looks like Simply Tan and Apparel received a commercial facade improvement grant from BLDC in 2024. Are there any limitations to how many allotments or grants can be pursued and received by the same business?
Not necessarily across different programs. So within each of the programs that we offer, there were upper limits, and those are different depending on the program. We do look holistically at the amount of money that any one organization is getting, but it's not a hard and fast if you already got money over here, we're definitely saying no over here, but it does become part of the larger conversation the local development corporation has before making an additional allocation to a business.
Oh, I was going to ask, is there a strategy of the BLDC or the Economic Development Department for if we're kind of taking this on, that you manage somehow like manage risk through like support in any, is there a strategy there?
Yeah, and I would say it really is case by case, 'cause it depends on what every individual business needs. But one of the things that we like to do is, by virtue of our involvement with these businesses and having a financial contribution, let's say, to their businesses, is being able to encourage them to take advantage of other resources that are out there. So like I said, when we first started having conversations with Katie, it was about, have you talked to Pursuit Lending, which is a community development finance institution? New York State just launched this new loan program. Are you eligible for that? And so walking her through kind of all of the resources that were out there for her. And we do the same thing with any business that talks to us. And it may be something as simple as, hey, you've been having some issues with your cash flow. How can we help you better understand what your cash flow is, what your revenues are, what your expenditures are? A lot of times we'll refer folks over to the Small Business Development Center because they are able to offer confidential services and they can really dig into the finances with you. So we try to understand what our strengths are and what another organization's strengths are, and really encourage folks who are using our assistance to then go out and make those other introductions. And I will mention that Katie also used the Small Business Development Center. A lot of the documents that were submitted as part of her loan application were developed in coordination with those folks over a number of months. But it really just depends on each particular business and what their needs are, what their challenges are. But yes, we do try to encourage them to look at the universe of opportunities that are out there. One of the things we talk about, not just in my office, but across Broome County and economic development, is we do really try to be a no wrong door community. If you come to us and we're not the right people to help you, we're gonna try to help you find who is the right person, and vice versa. We kind of are referring people back and forth across the ecosystem on a regular basis to get them in front of the resource that makes the most sense for them wherever their journey is. But we don't necessarily need them to understand exactly where they are in that journey. We just want them to make that first outreach, whether it's to us, to the Small Business Development Center, to our partners over at the Entrepreneurial Assistance Center at SUNY Broome, and we're always just kind of constantly referring people back and forth, trying not to give them the runaround that they're knocking on too many doors, but getting in front of the right person as quickly as possible so that they can get access to the services that best suit them.
Thank you.
It sounds like a really thoughtful process, and something that clicked in my head was, can we replicate some of this with the CDBG money and process, and because we've had other things that have come before us when we're like, well, the nonprofit marked off that they've looked for everything and this is the thing of last resort, but there's no documentation to back it up. And it sounds like you really go through that checkbox of this is a last resort effort. So I really appreciate that, and like to see that replicated within the city.
And I do think there's a push and a pull there, right? Because this is a significant amount of time that's being spent with one particular business that has one particular issue, right? And that is time that I either have to take away from other work I'm doing, mostly just take away from my personal life and spend more time at work instead. And so we're always trying to balance those and understanding who needs more of our time and assistance and who really can just benefit from a referral or a little bit of encouragement. So totally hear you on that, but we try to be as flexible and as understanding as possible of where people are meeting us at the process, and also just trying to be accountable to our own capacity and how much we're able to get done in any given day. And I will say, I'll give credit to Katie on this. She's the one that kept coming back and saying, here's what I did in the last month. Like, what do you guys think? Is this working? I don't think it's working for me. What other options do I have? So she was really engaged in the process. We've also had folks who maybe they come to us 3 years ago. We get them some resources to look at. We maybe make a referral, and they maybe come back 2 years later. So people kind of come in and out of the process at whatever speed makes the most sense for them.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
There's a motion to expedite, or there's a request to expedite, and I will motion to expedite, and there is a stated reason. But it basically comes down to the faster we get this done, the faster that this business would be not paying
Extra.
exorbitant interest on these
The interest
loans.
continues to accrue, so the faster we can close this out, the more we'll be keeping this tight.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion regarding the expedition? We have an explanation already, so any discussion? Clerk, can you please take the roll?
Councilmember Rathmel? Aye. Councilmember Matavetsky?
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss?
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Councilmembers Murray and Dunn are absent.
Aye.
Council President Pro Tem Middleton, thank you, that is 5-0.
Thank you so much. Clerk?
And sorry to be documenting my hoarse voice on your new sound system, but thank you very much.
That's okay.
Still better than on the last
We
one.
can hear you, though. It's clear.
Yeah. Have a good night.
Happy?
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to go with Finance Committee Chair Kavanaugh. He will now introduce RL 26-106.
Okay, RL 26-106 is a resolution to authorize reopening the 25-year retirement plan under Chapter 644 of the New York State Local Retirement System. This is, I think, a continuation of the process that we started last year for this firefighter.
Yes, last year.
This is step number 58
No.
or something?
No, last year the RL was for both David Edwards and Scott Pavlik.
Okay.
Obviously, the tragedy with Pavlik, we don't have to do his. But with David Edwards, I jumped the gun. The state didn't pass the law until November. So when you passed the RL last year,
The state portion wasn't done yet.
the state's portion wasn't done yet. So this is just redoing what you approved last year on the RL that I attached.
Okay.
They did approve it in November of 2025.
I see. Okay. And we were pretty sure that this is the last firefighter that would be requesting this.
I don't know, but we're pretty close to finishing out all of the older firefighters that fall under this section, but I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Does anyone need a refresh from last year?
No, I remember.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions regarding this? Okay. Well, thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
And now we are going to move on to rules and procedures. Special Studies Committee Chair, Councilmember Kavanaugh, can you introduce RL 26-106?
That's me.
Why does it say that there? Medavetsky,
Yep.
can you please
Right.
introduce RL 26-07?
All right.
Have a good night,
We have
Chuck.
Corporation Counsel as our speaker here. So it's RL 26-107, an ordinance to amend City Code 327-2.6 outdoor cafe permits to repeal liquor liability insurance requirements. Take it away, Bob.
So this came up recently where liquor liability insurance has become increasingly expensive within New York State. It's not required by the state to maintain a liquor license. So there's a number of businesses locally that have decided not to carry it, and to have them obtain a policy for an outdoor cafe permit in order to be able to extend service out into the sidewalk area for a few tables, whatever, is basically become prohibitively expensive. Where if we continue to require maintaining the insurance requirement, those owners and those operators most likely will stop applying for sidewalk permits and will no longer have their outdoor seating that's become kind of a mainstay downtown.
And so these are, just for clarification, these are restaurants that do or don't serve liquor, and
It's
will or won't be
solely-
selling liquor outside on the street?
It's solely for restaurants that have a liquor license. So if you're a restaurant, you don't have a liquor license, you're just serving food, we don't require you to provide proof of liquor liability insurance. For restaurants that do sell liquor, you know, currently it's required for those businesses to extend their service into that outdoor cafe permit area.
So your point about it not being required to have this extra insurance is that they can legally, in New York State, sell, if they have a liquor license inside, legally sell on the sidewalk in their designated permitted zone without the insurance. Am I following that correct? Or it would be, if you want to drink, you have to sit inside, and if you don't want to drink, you can sit outside.
Correct. So like the way it currently works is, you know, those businesses maintain their liquor license. In the summer, they get their license modified to be able to extend service to the outdoor area. Under neither of those schemes are they required to maintain liquor liability insurance by the state. The only requirement for the liquor liability insurance is the local requirement.
So, so I think that the relevant question would be, so the city becomes an extra named insured on the liability policy under our law, and that Corporation Counsel's opinion at this point is, I step in if I'm misstating, or please clarify, is that the city's not getting any particularly great benefit or shield from requiring this extra insurance on these businesses.
Correct. I mean, we still have the general commercial liability insurance requirement, so that's not going to change. It's strictly relating to liquor liability insurance that we would no longer require them to carry for their extensions.
I guess stepping one step, can you explain what liquor liability insurance is supposed to do?
So, commercial liability insurance typically excludes a lot of coverage for alcohol-related incidents. Where you see liquor liability insurance come into play a lot is where you have issues of like someone getting overserved, or generally it's where someone's getting overserved that it comes into play. From the research that we did, we've never had a claim within the city where we obtained coverage through. We've had claims related to outdoor cafe permit areas, but in terms of like liquor liability insurance, there's never been one where we claimed against the liquor liability insurance. It's always been, you know, where we're addressing it through the commercial liability piece. And looking more statewide, we really weren't able to find an instance where it came into play outside of where like the government entity basically like owned the entire space and basically an operator in there operating a restaurant that served liquor, and that's where we saw an instance of liquor liability coming into play with it. And at the time when this requirement was put in place, liquor liability insurance was a lot cheaper. So it's one of those things where like it's a nice, cheap insurance policy to have, and it's just become more expensive over time because you've seen more claims against bars and restaurants where liquor liability has come into play, and that's where it's become prohibitively expensive. Removing this requirement also doesn't limit the city's ability to recover in terms of like if something happened and the city needed to access insurance or, you know, try and get recovery because there was an injury or whatever, we can still go after the owner of that bar or restaurant. It's just there isn't that insurance pool to go after.
What is the cost, typically?
Let me see. I know I got forwarded, I think, a quote for it. I'd have to go dig it out and to give you like the number for it.
That's the primary reason that it's being waived, so I'm curious what amounts we're calling cost prohibitive.
And I have additional questions as well. How many businesses were asking for this? Like, is this one business, 3 businesses, all the businesses?
There were a few that brought it up. It got brought up through the mayor's office and economic development. So I don't know exactly how many off the top of my head. I can get you that information. In terms of the cost, I want to say the numbers that I saw, it was going to be around like $10,000 or something for a few, I forget what the number of tables was at that location, but it was like 5 tables.
And that's an annual?
Yes.
Was there any thought put into having some piece in there relating to like potentially higher risk businesses? Like, I'm thinking we've been having the somewhat planned but not still sporadic police going into locations and checking for underage drinking, for example. Like, does it make sense to require additional insurance for documented higher risk relating to alcohol stuff? I don't know, just throwing it out there, wondering if that was considered, if it was, why, what to do with that.
So in terms of like what's in the code, that's sort of like the minimum requirements. And we have the same thing with event permits, where we have a minimum insurance requirement, and then based off of the type of event, we can ask for additional amounts of insurance coverage, because not every event is the same. Obviously, the larger the event is, the more we're looking for higher levels of insurance. For these cafe permits, it's less location dependent and more what time you're going to be operating that space at. Generally, if you're operating your outdoor cafe permit, during sort of regular business hours into like the dinner hour, you're not going to see a ton of issues where liability issues would come into play. If someone's trying to operate an outdoor cafe permit area at 1 a.m, that's where you're going to see higher risk come into play.
Anyone else?
Just to clarify your immediate response to Councilmember Matavetsky's last question, we have the general insurance requirements. Even with this not required, we retain the option to add additional requirements for higher risk businesses.
Yes, we have the ability to request additional insurance, again, if we feel that it's necessary or appropriate. Again, for most, if not all, restaurants that I can think of that would apply for these permits, again, in terms of like those general operating hours, I mean, none of them operate that many tables outside. I mean, you're talking about generally a handful of tables that are getting operated out on the sidewalk. And I don't know many, if any of them, that operate them into sort of that very late night, early evening hours.
Well, I certainly love eating outside, and it's been something that's definitely been commented on, the lack of outdoor seating, at least pre-COVID, in Binghamton, for people that came to this area that were surprised at the small amount of outdoor seating. So I hope that we see more outdoor seating.
Does anybody else have any other questions? And I see we have a request for expedition for this RL.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion regarding the expedition?
Well, it's
It's
outdoor
seasonal.
cafe season, so
Yeah,
hopefully.
get it done. Yeah, the weather's changing finally. Okay, clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Rathmel?
Aye.
Councilmember Matavetsky?
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss?
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Councilmembers Murray and Dundon are absent. Council President Pro Tem Middleton.
Aye.
Thank you. That is 5-0.
Okay, thank you so much. Now we are going to move on to RL, where are we at? RL 26-108. It's in Municipal and Public Affairs. Councilmember Rathmel, can you go over that? We have Amy. Amy's here. Amy, do you want to come down? Yeah, you can come down. And Bob and Rebecca, you can.
Sure. Thank you, Council President Pro Tem Middleton. This is RL 26-108, a resolution authorizing an agreement with the Astor D. Rice Foundation for the use of the City of Binghamton's Rec Center. We have both Corporation Counsel, Bob Heery, and Executive Director Amy Rice available. Between the two of you, do you have a preference on who kind of presents the discussion and the agreement?
I can take the lead on it. So the Rice Foundation approached the city about utilizing the space we have at the rec center in order to kind of have some expanded capacity that they wouldn't otherwise have. So we were looking to accommodate them as well as make sure that, none of our programming that's there gets affected. So this is kind of laying that out in terms of, providing space for the foundation to be able to make use of, while balancing the city's needs and its activities that is planned there.
Amy, with this agreement, is this the full extent of what you were hoping with an agreement with the city for center use? Does this serve the interests and needs of the foundation in a way you were hoping?
You can press
Oh,
press the button.
just
Amy.
put, green, there you go.
We were hoping that we would have more access to use it for additional programs as we grew. Not programs that we've already implemented, but it looks like the city already has a lot of different programs going on in there. So we're just glad that we're able to, at minimum, bring our flagship program in there, which is FACE, which we provide after school and family engagement for East Middle School. So we're hoping to expand that program to be able to offer it to West Middle School as well and provide them that service in a centralized location.
I had a question. I have a bunch of questions. Can you talk about what your hopes are, like what you want to do with the program, and what are you adding on to the program?
So what we're adding is the ability to be able to offer it to West Middle School students as well, in the most cost-effective way, being that we utilize East Middle School currently, and we want to bring the students, both schools, together in kind of a neutral space. And then just the proximity where it's located is ideal because it's centrally located, so it would be most effective for all families and students of the city.
Absolutely. And transportation, how do they plan to get there?
So we provide transportation with FACE.
Nice.
What we do is we have, we work with other organizations to rent their vans.
Mhm.
So as far as the students are concerned, we when we do our field trips, we partner with organizations to rent their vans. And then we also, for families that want to participate who don't have vehicles, we provide them, or who do have vehicles, we provide them $10 gas cards to just kind of offset and ensure that, you know, we're not putting additional burdens on the family, to ensure that they're able to come, just a little incentive, and as well as utilize the rented vans to transport families who don't have cars.
Thank you so much for that. And one thing I just wanted to say a few things. One, thank you so much for what you're doing in the community. I think it's very important right now, this time in need. I'm grateful yesterday I got a chance to go to your annual fundraiser. It's very nice, very inspiring, and I like the work that you do, not only with kids, but with families. So basically, you're helping out kids, but bringing it as a whole, as a family, and sometimes we really need that, as we can see with the way the world is going. So thank you for that. I want to circle back to that because, you know, with everything going on and kind of, our thoughts and how we can help the youth, especially with your program and a lot of other programs, I want to see how we can help in the city. And you said, one of the things you said is that you hoped that, you could have more access to the rec center. Can you kind of just explain like what that would do if you had more access to the rec center? Because, that just by you telling us that, that's going to give us some ideas on what we need to work on.
Yeah, so being a relatively new organization, we're growing at a rapid pace, but we have to solidify space to be able to add on to the programs that we already have. We're hoping to do more mentorship programming, develop more mentorship programming, and just space has really been kind of the issue right now. So we've worked on our strategic plan and are going to be, identifying ways where we can grow, scale our organization at a steady pace while meeting the needs, the urgency, and the needs of what the community needs.
Absolutely. And how many families are there? How many families do you serve?
So we do 2 sessions. We do one in the fall and one in the summer. In the spring, we take up to 15 families per session. This session, we have a little bit lower enrollment. I think we have 9 families, but the other piece that we do is we consistently provide the program year-round. So every month, any family who has participated in the program is extended the invitation to come back. So we consistently maintain our relationships with once the families have begun working with the organization. So we could have as many as 25 families at a monthly follow-up session. And we also offer these sessions over the summer months, which we're grateful to partner with SUNY Broome. So we have space to kind of offer the summer programming. But, as the programming grows, we want to just be able to have consistent space to support all the needs.
Absolutely, in a steady space too, instead of moving around. I think that's kind of one of the things too, like a steady space instead of moving around. Have you worked with the youth assistant, Madeline, at any point?
Not yet.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I was just wondering about that. That might be something we could kind of bridge with that.
Okay,
to kind
that'd
of
be
get
awesome.
that. Yeah.
Do you have more questions?
No, go ahead. I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Keep asking.
I think what FACES in particular does, but the foundation in general does incredibly well, and I think it's unmatched among programs within the city, is engaging with families, engaging with students. And one of the limitations that we identified with the Parks Department as they were developing programming within the rec center is that transportation is not provided. I appreciate that you saw that need and have built it into what you offer to ensure that what you do and your programming is accessible. What I don't think we have a clear picture on, and Bob, this may be more of a you question. Just chatting internally, I'm not sure any of us have a clear picture of just what programming is being conducted at the rec center. And so if we could do, whether we discuss it now or get a more comprehensive comparison of what the city purports to need the space for in a way that is limiting the foundation's access.
So probably the best person to bring into this would be Shane, since all of this falls kind of underneath his umbrella. I know that there's some after-school stuff that they do over there. I know they use the facility for like sports, both like your typical indoor sports as well as, you know, doing some of your outdoor practices before the weather gets better. You know, I'm not sure what all they have specifically for programming there, but I do know that it's been a focus to get it started up and get it built out. And I think part of the goal, especially with accommodating the FACE program, was that it worked well with the timing that they had already set for what was going on there already. And so that was a block of time that they could kind of set aside and use for it. And then, you know, in terms of like additional uses, it's not that the city's unwilling to explore providing time or space for additional uses. I think it's just a question of, you know, what that looks like in terms of if it's going to be a regular thing, what we can accommodate, or if it's a one-off thing or more intermittent. There might be some more flexibility there. Again, depending on kind of what's going on the time of year. Because I know from talking with Shane, you know, part of the issue too is that during different times of the year, you have different levels of use there.
Yeah, I understand that, but I do think that, you know, there are different levels, but we still can work around it. Like that space is just sitting there. It was brought to us as like a center that is going to be kind of changing, and we still really have to make use of it. Like it's sitting there, and I understand like the different things that they have going, but there's ways to work around it. Like I've been in places where there's a space where there's things that are constantly going on. And even if we have to put a person that is like a maintenance person working in there nonstop to make sure that it's okay, I'd rather have that. And I'm pretty sure that we'll all vote on having someone there 24 hours to keep that if that's an issue. But just to have it like, you know, not being in the use for what we want it to be in use for and how it could potentially help the city of Binghamton. And, you know, like I think I was talking to a few people, we could even put a pantry in there. Or like there's space in there, and, you know, we're not doing our justice if we're leaving it empty just for programs that are run by the city. It's for the city of Binghamton, so it should be used for every little thing that we have in Binghamton. We could even rent it out. Like we could do a lot of things. We could rent it out and have that come back in as a fund for something else that we could use in the city because we have that space. So, sorry.
No, yeah, I agree. I would love to see this go to committee where we're getting a concrete schedule from Shane. I think it's not just the schedule, it's the accessibility, the efficacy of the programs, and who is being served.
Absolutely.
I think we want to make sure that we're prioritizing underserved youth, so having those conversations. So if you're willing, Councilmember Middleton, I'd love to see a committee meeting to discuss it more at length.
Sure.
And Amy, if you're willing to be a part of that conversation too.
Sure.
Not that we want to draw out, you know, getting this agreement in place.
No,
that wouldn't be
that's
the
not the thing.
intention.
We're just trying to basically see how we can, like, programs like yours, and if there's other things, like how can we make the best and use the space, you know, what it's intended for.
Okay.
Yeah, and if we don't know about like a schedule or a situation, we'd like to all kind of be in that loop.
Yeah, I mean, we had our, blanking on the word. We had a meeting at the rec center, and, you know, we had to figure out how do we even get access to this space when we're on council, right? And how do we figure out when we can have a public forum in the space? So I think that makes sense for us to better understand, and so that we can help organizations and constituents figure out how they get access.
Yeah, how it works, like how, yeah, we don't know. But yeah, we're gonna set up a meeting and, but that has nothing to do with this. We were just thinking ahead of like how we can access that. And
Well,
thank you. Thank you for
I
that.
would say a little bit to do it, like I would like to know what their claim is relative to why access is limited within this agreement. I just want to be able to compare schedule, and if there's more that can be offered to Astor D. Rice for use, I would love to see if we can initiate that.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions?
No, just a comment. I think this is a great step towards having, my vision for the rec center was having a multitude of organizations being able to utilize the space to help better serve the youth, and I think this is a step towards making that reality. So thank you for bringing this forward. Looking forward to see what you do with it and how we can continue to improve and get more people coordinating and on the same page. So, and if when you figure out when you want to start a mentor program, can you like reach out to me, because that's something I've been thinking about.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
And thank you again for the work that you do. It is noticed, and we definitely appreciate you in the city. And if we can assist you in any way, even if you think it's impossible, please reach out to us. Putting our minds together, we could definitely come up with something, or try to come up with something to our best ability. Thank you.
Okay, thank y'all so much.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you.
So now, the last thing on the agenda tonight, Planning Committee Chair Councilmember Rathmel will now introduce a discussion with Adam Flint. Sorry, I can say that. Adam Flint and Brian Goodman regarding Binghamton Community Power.
Sure, and that is the introduction. Adam, who's here to present on Binghamton Community Power, and his colleague Brian Goodman met, correct me if I'm wrong, but individually with Councilmember Matavetsky, and there was consensus and an interest in a broader presentation. We also have members who can't necessarily make the daytime committee meetings, so we wanted to reserve some time on our work session to make sure that all members could hear. So, Adam, I will pass it to you.
Thank you, Councilmember Rathmel, and also Matavetsky, for your interest in our ability to be here. I'm sorry that my colleague Brian could not join us. He's been dealing with some health issues, so you just get me, and I know I'm standing between you and, I hope not dinner, but maybe, so keep it short. So Binghamton Community Power is a program of Network for a Sustainable Tomorrow. We are a small nonprofit here in town that was started in 2008. We have a wide range of clean energy programs. Binghamton Community Power is our environmental justice program. It started before COVID. We managed to get some things done even during COVID, but it's really been the second round that has been bearing some more fruit. So we have sort of three areas to this program, and I should mention it's supported in the main at this point by an environmental justice grant from the Department of Environmental Conservation, although we have been submitting proposals for other grants for expansion, which I'll raise. So the first thing is that we provide education and capacity building for residents, whether they are renters or homeowners, and we would like to do some things with a few good landlords if we could find them, to be able to understand better how to deal with the energy situation, both economically and health-wise, safety-wise, and comfort-wise in their homes. So DIY solutions for renters and homeowners, dealing with and understanding their NYSEG bill and how to go through the complaint process. I will say that that is a particular item of interest right now, given I think everyone is aware we have a very, very serious problem with our utility. We also helped folks navigate the state programs. We really don't have federal programs to help them navigate, with the exception of HEAP and a little bit, there might be a little bit more. So that's kind of the first area. We also will include in that, we haven't done it yet, some sessions on clean energy careers.
Then the second area is data gathering. One of the biggest reasons why people do not get clean energy improvements on their homes is they have other kind of improvements that get in the way. There's repair and remediation that has to happen first. So if you have mold or some other airborne situation, the last thing you want to do is tighten up a home. That's a recipe for disaster. Similarly, if you have a bad roof or bad foundation, it's not really going to be a very good idea to put insulation on those things. I know that the city and other surrounding municipalities have had funds for that purpose. That's definitely something I want to discuss. There's also a law statewide that is a very good law with almost no money called the GAP Fund. We've been trying to get more money into that. I think you're all as familiar or more familiar than I am of the situation with the budget and with Albany right now. So it's been a bit of a frustration. Then the third area is really the navigation of these programs. And we're also working with partner organizations, including the Broome County Health Department, DSS, Cooperative Extension. We consider Councilmember Hotchkiss to be also a partner, since we're starting in the north side with this. We don't want to just stay on the north side, no offense, but we really want to go broader, and we have had conversations with Councilmember Modaveski about this. We've been doing a little bit more work in the NOMA area. The basic limitation, as in many things, is money. As I mentioned, we have applied for some other funding. And should we be successful, we want to expand not only to other disadvantaged communities in this city, but also to other places in Broome County. We are applying for CDBG funds in the town of Union for that purpose. We'll see where that goes. In terms of some of the challenges, other than money, which I'll come back to, I did mention landlords. We really need to get connections with decent landlords, because in part, that's how we can get uptake on the Empower Plus program, which actually allows landlords to use their tenants' income to qualify for money from NYSERDA. And also understanding a little bit more intimately why these programs don't have much uptake. I mean, I think I kind of have an idea, but it's a little better to have that kind of empirical knowledge. I guess the last thing that I will mention is, in terms of funding, first I'll just preface by saying I consider we're in a state of emergency right now. That being said, I know there's hotel motel money, I know there's CDBG money. We would very much be interested in talking with council about possible funding in the future for the program, both in terms of funding for our operations and funding for the actual measures. Again, I'm aware that there have been in our programs that do some of those things, but I don't get the sense that there's probably enough money in those. I know there are many competing priorities. So with that, I'll stop and take any questions you have.
Adam, for the support navigating some of the programs, is there a direct referral that if I have a constituent who contacts me and is challenged by understanding their NYSEG bill, is there a single point of contact that I should refer them to with Binghamton Community Power? Or is it more of a website, take a look kind of thing?
So we have our info at nynest.org email, which we respond to for a number of different purposes, and also our virtual phone system. We would love to be able to help more people with all of these things, especially with the NYSEG bill situation. We had a program at the Broome County Library. I will confess that because Brian has been ill for some time, we didn't promote it as well as we would like, but we had 2 people. I will say that part of that is our problem, but our partners are basically saying it is exceedingly difficult sometimes now to get people out to things. There's a lot of challenges everyone is facing, and oftentimes not going out is a preferred option unless there's a compelling reason to do so. So we want to have service delivery that actually works now, as opposed to like pre-COVID or immediate post-COVID. I also heard someone mention here the no wrong door idea. We certainly are not resourced to do that, but that is our vision as well. We really don't want people to be running around from agency to agency trying to chase down what they need. But that's a whole other discussion involving a lot of other agencies that I think would like to do that if we have the resources.
Have, for renters in particular, the DIY materials to help lower energy bills, have you done or do you do workshops on?
You can call them workshops. I mean, right now, the DIY materials we have are via the utility, NYSEG, and so there's exactly 4 things in those kits. We would like to have more robust kits. We have door sweeps, I forget what they're called, but basically the plastic you put around the window that you put the hair dryer on and so forth. Cooperative Extension did have more robust kits. There are issues with NYSERDA around that. So I would say I'm not satisfied with the material offerings that we have there, but that's what we've got at the moment. Those 2 things, and I think the baffles for outlets, and one other thing that escapes me. But yes, we do.
But they're ready-made kits.
They're ready-made kits. We've got, I don't know, 60 of them. There won't be any more. There was a change in priorities at NYSERDA, and that's no longer being supported.
Okay.
Do you have like a simple sheet for landlords? So I did, following my conversation with Brian, I did speak with one landlord in my district, and his viewpoint was likely his tenants probably made too much money to qualify for anything, so it wasn't worth going after. His tenants are working folks, but he seemed to think that they wouldn't qualify. I know, based on also you brought it up here, the idea of like, you need to have a house that's in a good enough condition, or a property that's in a good enough condition where you don't have mold, you don't have roof problems, right? So you're looking for decent housing stock with lower income tenants.
Yes, I'm aware of the contradiction there.
Yeah, so this is kind of the question of like, what do we mean when we're talking about, like what does working class mean in like this kind of universe where we have the K economy or whatever?
I'm certainly not going to defend the way any government entity defines low income in the United States, but the way this program does is 80% of area median income and below. And in answer to your question, I don't have a dedicated one-pager. I will. That is another thing that has fallen behind since I'm rather limited staff-wise at the moment.
Thank you. Yeah, because I'd be willing to keep the conversations going, but kind of the initial reaction is I don't think anyone qualifies, or my property wouldn't qualify. Or
so what the one-pager will have, and I certainly have this information in other forums, is family size, income size, and so essentially a landlord could give this to the tenant and say, I'm considering this. Do you think you'd qualify? And just to say, the landlord would have no role in dealing with the income qualification side of that. NYSERDA has a servicer that does that. So essentially the landlord, as the owner, is responsible for dealing with NYSERDA and the contractors on the upgrade side. But on the income side, that's entirely independent, because I can imagine, tenants would be a little leery about sharing that sort of thing with anybody, including a landlord.
I'm still interested in the DIY materials, because often in the absence of funds and in the absence of other resources, for more grassroots kind of community-based groups, offering something material is the only immediate solution. I'm
That's
curious
fair.
if you've you've worked either with, I don't believe Binghamton Tenants Union has had a conversation, but if you've introduced the DIY materials and the fact that the kits exist to, for example, the tenant-based rental assistance programs, where you've got extremely low-income renters with history of housing instability, often motivated by some of the energy issues. Have you worked with any organizations or the union or anything like that?
Barely.
On getting these
I've
out?
not worked with BTU. We really, so this is actually tying into something I said earlier. We feel that we should be doing fewer events with more organizations.
Yeah.
So we have a strong interest in that sort of thing. That obviously solves several problems at once.
Mhm.
Yeah, so and I will say that our staffing issue will be resolved by June. We have a new person coming in. We'll have a new raft of interns, hopefully better funding, but we'll be
Cool.
able to pursue more things then.
Following up on the kids, because I know this past winter, especially with the extreme cold snap, and I did have calls relating to heat being turned off on tenants, people heating their houses with their ovens and such in the 5th District. Is there a drop-off service or any, like, when people are in kind of situations and they're literally just trying to keep whatever residual heat in their place?
So we are not very well set up for what are called no heat situations. Cornell Cooperative Extension's Regional Energy Hub program should really be taken advantage of there. That said, since the current president came in office and slashed funding for HEAP and other things, we actually don't have a good solution for that in this state, full stop. We didn't have emergency assistance through HEAP for much of the winter, and the DSS benefit involves a very, very onerous application process. The Empower Plus program was never designed as an emergency program, because obviously if it's 2 degrees out, you can't wait weeks for somebody to fix your furnace. So this is a problem right now that honestly, if local communities can't find the resources for it, we don't have it. But I would say that if I get a no heat call or whatever, I refer to them, because they are focused squarely on low income, Empower. That's what they do at the Regional Clean Energy Hub program. So they have a lot more experience, they have a lot more contacts, they've walked people through the DSS. But I mean, there's a young woman who I met through a alumni event at Binghamton University who's working at Tioga CCE, and she told what she went through to be able to help a family go through that process and eventually get solution after weeks. It's insane. So we have a lot of resources in terms of knowledge and understanding and being able to help people manage the programs that exist, but we certainly do not pretend to have the resources necessary for this. I'll also say, and I'll just offer this up to council, that we really want to be a resource around the utility issue. Nest is a party to the rate case currently. We're involved in rate regulation reform efforts. New York's rate-making process is broken. And so there are things that can make a difference in the short term, but this is a systemic problem that we're facing in terms of the cost of rates. And there are many elected officials' offices that are part of this rate case and have been directly exposed to how both the process and the rules and likely the outcomes are anything but providing just and reasonable and reliable service. So I think many bodies such as this have done what they can to be engaged. It is a very time-consuming business. But I know that, for example, the City of Ithaca is going to be calling on the AG's office to investigate the companies. I won't go any further than that right now. It's my feeling also that the regulatory system has failed New Yorkers. It's a little bit off topic, but that is actually part of Binghamton Community Power, as we try to help people individually, but we need to deal with these systems as well.
Anybody else? Well, thank you so much, Adam, for coming. I'm really honored that you would come to council to bring this presentation. So thank you so much.
That's very kind of you to say,
Thank you.
and I'm very honored to be here. I think the work of this council has been really great, and it just would be nice if we had concomitant resources to be able to do what we envision doing.
Absolutely. We will one day.
Yes, we will. We'll stick with it.
Thank you. I hope
Stubborn faith.
Yes.
Stubborn faith.
We're manifesting. I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you. To you as well, all of you.
And I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.